Sometimes the biggest lessons in road safety don't come from a textbook or a driving class. Nope. They come from a single, heart-stopping moment that's frozen in time. In this explainer, we're going to break down one of those moments, a real-life incident where the line between getting home safe and a total catastrophe was measured in a single inch. The world compressed. What does that even feel like? Well, it's that sensation you get right before a disaster, when everything, time, space, sound, it all just seems to warp and close in around you. So let's dive into exactly what happened to cause that terrifying feeling. All right, so our story starts where so many do, at the end of a workday, right in the middle of that evening rush. But the actual setting for this was anything but your typical commute.
So here's the setup. It's just after 5:03 p.m. to be exact. We're on this really narrow service road, right next to a big highway construction site. You've got a car, and it's doing a pretty standard controlled maneuver, just slowly and carefully overtaking a motorcycle that has two people on it. So far, so normal, right?
Yeah, but this wasn't a normal road. Not at all. It was more like a gauntlet. The driver and the rider, they weren't just dealing with each other. They were navigating two really specific, unavoidable dangers that just raised the stakes through the roof. Get this. This setup left zero safety net. To the car's right, you've got the unforgiving edge of an open drain. We're talking less than 3 feet away. And to the bike's left, the total chaos of a pedestrian who's stumbling, totally unpredictable. There was absolutely no margin for error. None. And it's into this razor-thin space, this zone of absolutely zero tolerance, that a third vehicle decides to make an insane bet. This is where a tense situation goes completely off the rails and turns into the 1-inch gamble. Out of absolutely nowhere, there's this deafening engine roar. A Royal Enfield motorcycle just appears in the car's side mirror. And he's not waiting, he's not sizing things up, he's just coming through, totally consumed by this blinding, dangerous impatience. The source material just describes this moment perfectly. This wasn't an overtake. It was a violation. A violent, forceful push into a space that, let's be clear, did not exist for a third vehicle. He literally injected himself into the gap. And this is the number that matters, 1 inch. That was the total space separating the car, the bike with two people on it, and the speeding Enfield. Just one single, terrifying inch. That's it, between total control and complete catastrophe. The proximity was so intense, you could actually feel it. The person in the car noted that the Enfield rider's elbow passed so close to the window, they could feel the whoosh of displaced air. That little detail just makes the danger so chillingly real, doesn't it? And just like that, the moment passes. Everyone is, somehow, miraculously, safe. So now let's take a deep breath and dissect just how close this came to being a multi-vehicle tragedy. The person who witnessed this calls it the macabre three-way dance, and it's the perfect name for it. For just a split second, all 3 vehicles were completely trapped, pinned by the drain on one side, the pedestrian on the other, and by each other. There was no safe way out for anyone. And there were 3 very clear, very distinct ways this could have ended in horror. If the car driver flinches even slightly to the right, they're plunging into that open drain. If the first bike wobbles left, it's hitting that pedestrian. And if the infield so much as clips either of them, well, you've got a tangled, tragic wreck involving everyone. 3 different paths, all leading to disaster. So what do we actually take away from this? I mean, beyond the shock and the adrenaline, this whole incident shines a massive spotlight on a fundamental rule of the road that was just completely ignored. A rule we could call the supreme commandment. And here it is. It's simple. It is absolutely non-negotiable, and it is the single most important idea that separates a safe trip from a life-altering one. You have to respect the gap. So our first big takeaway is that your margin of error is your lifeline. On dangerous, tight roads, common sense should be screaming at you that you need more space, not less. Trying to squeeze through a gap that's hardly a handlebar's width isn't skill, it's gambling. And you're not just gambling with your life, but with everyone else's too. And the second takeaway is all about your mindset. Being a responsible driver means you're always anticipating the unpredictable. You have to plan for the pedestrian to stumble, for the car to swerve.
The aggressive rider who forced his way into that 1-inch gap was basically betting that everyone else around him would be absolutely perfect. And that's a bet you just can't afford to lose. And why? Why take such a monumental risk? This slide just lays it out in a really stark, sobering way. That rider saved, what, 3 seconds? Maybe? The potential cost was multiple serious injuries, maybe even fatalities. When you see it like this, the sheer foolishness of that trade-off is just undeniable.
The source material leaves us with this really powerful thought. These near misses, these close calls, they're warnings. They are lessons written in adrenaline, and we owe it to ourselves and to every single person we share the road with to remember them. And that really brings us to our final thought, a question for you. The next time you're on the road and you feel that little surge of impatience, that urge to shave off just a few seconds, remember this story and ask yourself this one simple question. What is it really worth?